Hey everybody, I'm Greg Sowell, and this is Why Am I, a podcast where I talk to interesting people and try and trace a path to where they find themselves today. My guest this go-around is Chè Monique. She was kind enough to don her human form to talk to me about her life as a mermaid. On the surface, it seems pretty simple, but as soon as you put a little time into it, you realize it is this extremely rich and nuanced culture. It seems, though, that most of the nuance consists of puns, so I'll just kind of warn you ahead of time. I was initially drawn to Chè because of this insanely inclusive community she's developed called the Society of Fat Mermaids. I love the name. It just really grabs your attention, right? In there is pure childlike joy being shared along with things I've never expected to ponder, like what wigs are best underwater and how's the foot pouch on this tail. Right? It's pretty interesting stuff. But at any rate, I hope you enjoy this enchanted conversation with Chè. Chè Monique, thank you for joining me on the Why Am I podcast.
Greg, thank you for having me. This is awesome already.
Excellent. So, you and I happen to be out and about. It is cooling off outside right now. So, we're going to a Christmas tree lighting ceremony, where they have the big tree and they're about, they're going to do the countdown eventually and all the lights are going to kick on. It's going to be magical. We're ready for it. And we have to be standing each other. And I genuinely love other humans. I love talking to people and getting to know them. So I strike up a conversation. We talk about me for a little bit. And now it's your turn to reciprocate. So Chè, who are you?
Hi. You met me in my human form, but I spend a lot of my life as a mermaid. I am someone who loves holidays, as you can tell, because here we are at the Christmas tree lighting ceremony. Um, any opportunity to celebrate gives me joy. I live here in the DC area, and I teach mermaiding. I run a mermaid themed clothing line and community called Society of Fat Mermaids. And I am a finfluencer that you can find all over social except for Twitter. But I guess that was really smart of me to not invest there.
Yeah, it sure seems like it, right? So, oh my gosh, that was a lot of stuff. So one is, I'm just curious how many puns we're going to integrate into this conversation. So it already starts with finfluencer. What is a finfluencer?
I'm an influencer with a mermaid fin.
I love that you said in my human form. So it makes it sound like your mermaid form is your true self.
More and more, it's seeming like that. Yeah, mermaid is life now. Hasn't always been that way, but yeah.
Oh my gosh. Mermaid is life. I think,
Yeah.
do you have that on a t-shirt?
Weirdly, no, but yeah, let me write that down because I used to pump out a new shirt design almost weekly, and then the pandemic happened, and which, to be fair, was a great time to do that type of stuff. It just, I don't know. I think it was just the psycho-emotional toll. I shut down, not necessarily because I had to, I just did, if that makes sense. But yeah, mermaid is life. That's 100% assured.
So you've been in the mermaid game for quite a while then, huh?
About 4 years now.
Okay.
4.5. Yeah. Or my whole life, depending on how you want to measure it, but I would say officially about 4.5 years.
So you've always been a mermaid. It just took you a while to find the tail, sort of thing.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I have no recollection of not being able to swim. Growing up, my brother and I would ride our bikes to the pool in the summer, and we'd be at the pool so long that my mom would drive and pick us up. The beach was always my happy place. I've always loved mermaids. So yeah, in some ways, it's been a lifelong thing.
So where did you grow up? Was it in the DC area?
Yeah, I grew up in Northern Virginia.
Okay. Isn't it kind of chilly up there?
It's freezing right now.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we get all 4 seasons, so that's I mean, now the climate is weird, but in theory, it's a place where you get all 4 seasons, and that's pretty cool. Um, it's funny when I talk to like my West Coast friends, and I'll be talking to them about seasonal stuff, and I realize like for them it's kind of just like hypothetical, you know. I'm like, oh, the leaves, and they're like, yep, the palm trees look the same out here. You know? And I'm like, oh, the snow, and they're like, what's that? I'm like, oh, okay. But
Yeah,
yeah,
we had some of that a couple of years ago because literally everything shut down here in Texas. It's just like we don't know what to do with ourselves. It was pretty crazy.
yeah, I was in Atlanta one day where I think there were flurries and slightly icy rain, and it was kind of amusing to see everything just stop.
Yeah, yeah. As soon as it hits, like as soon as it gets wet out here, it's kind of, you sort of take your life in your own hands when you get out on the road. People just, if it's not just hot and sunny, people don't know what to do with themselves out here.
I mean,
But
hot and sunny is my preferred climate.
yeah, me too, bro, for sure. So you said a mom and brother. What do they? What's their take on like? What do you guys call it? Like oh my god.
Mermaiding. The verb is mermaiding.
Well, no. Like
Oh,
your persona, is it called a finsona?
Mersona.
Mersona. Oh God, why did I miss that pun? I was so close.
Can I tell you once somebody interviewed, or they were talking about me in an interview, and they called me, I think, a merlebrity. And I'm like secretly a little annoyed because I'm like, you missed it. It's a shell celebrity. Like some
Oh.
of them are very like, it's like,
Oh my God. I have a feeling this conversation is going to injure me in a way that I'm not going to be able to repair myself from. Oh my God, these puns. Your Mersona. So, like, tell me about your Mersona. Like, what's the story with that?
so a lot of MERS have like these very, very elaborate mersonas. Like I have a friend, Mermaid Marina, and she's gender fluid, and she was like Ariel's sister or brother or sibling that like wasn't allowed to be part of like the showcase, and like it's this whole thing, and she ran away, and like super, super elaborate story. My confession is I do not have an elaborate persona. Mermaid Chè Monique is me, just better, like just kind of an idealized version of self. I do have like some backstory stuff that I'm working through. So if you ask, it's like, I always thought I was human, and then I got swept up by a wave, had a near drowning experience, and ended up with a tail. So there is like some backstory I play with, but not that is like as core to my identity as it is for other merfolk. For some people, like they're from this specific particular waters, they may speak a certain dialect of Moorish, like
Hmm.
certain people, like it's very, very elaborate. Mine is less evolved than some of my colleagues.
Hmm. Do you think to some people like the backstory is just as important as like the aesthetic of everything?
Yeah, and I think for a lot of folks, like it also depends on the type of like work you do, right? So like if you're front facing with kids, like you have to have answers for those kids.
Hmm.
Like, because they want to play 10,000 questions with you. I had an event with a kid recently, and I think she really wanted to believe I was real,
Hmm.
but her like intellect was like no, and so she was going to ask me all the questions she could, and it was an event called Art All Night. She's like, you're here till midnight, I'm going to ask you questions till midnight. And I'm like, oh my god, where are your parents, please get this child. But like I appreciated like that dichotomy of like, I don't believe this thing I'm seeing, but if you can answer all these, if you can make it make sense, I'll believe you, because I want to believe you, but I don't. And so I think the people who do like a lot of front facing work with kids, who do all the birthday parties and all of that, like I think for them, they have to have those answers ready. I mostly do my stuff online. I'm mostly talking to adults. I do a lot of motivational speaking. I just want to like look in a camera and tell you that you're amazing. And I really hope you're having an awesome day. And I'm so sorry that people don't see all the little things you do, but I know that you're doing them, and it's great that you're doing them, and keep shining your light. Like I kind of do that. And so while like people ask weird questions online, I can like answer them if I want to, or not if I don't feel like it. And so there's less pressure. So I think that's kind of why some personas are more developed than others. And then some people, it is like a fun creative writing exercise, or just
Hmm.
like a fun like fantasy escape. Like they want to fully, become another character. Like I know people whose personas are completely different genders than they are, and like it's a place to explore that. And so because my persona is like me, just a little nicer, a little smarter, a little more patient, like it's not the level of escapism that it is for other people. So I think developing personas has like different types of power for different merfolk.
So I am a huge fan of drag, like drag in general. Everybody watches Drag Race, but I've been to a lot of drag shows and stuff like that. And something I learned through that community is like something RuPaul talked about is that like once he got into drag, and I've heard other people mirror it, is that you sort of become this other person, this powerful person that you can, kind of put away your insecurities and all that stuff, and you are this person. And then RuPaul said that at some point in his life, he realized the way he felt in drag, that power was available to him in every aspect of his life. And I thought that was like so like mind blowing. But I was, looking at all these people, and some of them you could tell that they're a little bit more meek and maybe mild mannered in real life. But then once they, put on the tail, they are this strong, powerful person. Do you think that's what attracts a lot of people kind of initially?
I think for a lot of folks, I think for many folks, that's like a surprise element. I think so many of us just have this like lifelong fantasy. Like mermaids have intrigued people as long as there've been people, like society started near water, and so it's like this idea of like these mythical fish people. I think it's just this like one of those weird things that has been like an ongoing thread of humanity. And so I think for so many of us, it's just this like fantasy we've kind of always had. For me, being in the water is very like liberating and freeing. And I I I don't know. I don't think, I mean, I could be wrong, but I don't feel like the pull is for that like power. I feel like that power is like a surprise because we're like a drag queen, like often is such a like front facing, larger than life personality, like generally performing the loud music and everything's just like big, while mermaids are showy. And while you're right, I do see people like take up space and kind of claim that power once they get into their persona. I don't think you I don't think it's as obvious. Like I don't think you look at another mermaid and go, oh, I want to be powerful and like badass like her, like I'm gonna do it. It's like I feel like it's a little more ephemeral, but also there's so many of us and we all have our different reasons. But I really feel like that personal growth almost that happens is like it's like a bonus. I feel like it's more of like a fantasy escape for a lot of folks. And then some people are very pragmatic. Some people are like, I want to teach kids about the environment, and me going walk, 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 walk is boring. But if I like swim up and like choke on a piece of plastic, like they're going to be like, let's not kill the mermaids, So for some
Yeah,
people, it's a very pragmatic thing as well.
that's interesting. So for you, you think the attraction was kind of the mystique of it, like something sort
Yeah.
of interesting, something kind of mysterious.
Yeah. It's just, I mean, to be able to do something like you've always dreamed about, but like never really thought was possible. And then suddenly it is possible. And then there's a play element. And I think that's like so important to emphasize because like adults forget that they're allowed to play. And so I think a lot of like merfolk try to make it like very like serious and like justified, and it's like, it's okay to just be like, hey, I want to put on a costume and play in the water. Like that is 5,000% okay. And I think that just like freedom and like frivolity and like play and magic was definitely a big part of the appeal. Um, yeah, I mean, for me, it was just like initially, oh, this is cool, this is fun, I want to do it. And it's turned into a lot more than that based on how people have responded to me and kind of how I feel like I can use mermaiding. But initially, it was just literally dress up in the water.
Yeah, yeah. It's once I got into your group that you set up, the Society of Fat Mermaids. I mean, obviously there's kind of a hook to the name, right, to catch your attention. But it was really interesting in there because it was mostly people just sharing this thing about it brings me joy, and that thing about it brings me joy. And it was people kind of sharing those little interactions. And while I'd hoped to see that, I didn't know that. I had no expectations. I was just going in kind of with an open mind. And I feel like it's quite an interesting community of people that you have attracted. Do you feel like that was kind of missing from the mer community, like this place of people just coming together and celebrating kind of the joy aspect of it? Because you said some people could be pretty serious. I'm just curious, is there a fount of groups like that?
I mean, there's so many different mer groups. I think people do celebrate the joy of it. I think what makes Society of Fat Mermaids special is, even though like statistically larger people are most of America, or a very large portion, like we're really taught to hide, you know? And so I think literally just waving a flag and being like, hey, just come hang out here and we're not going to judge you for your body. And if you don't know where to find a top in a like 46G, I might not know it, but I bet Asterism does, because they're incredibly knowledgeable, and so might be able to like help tell you how to make your own or how to hack your swimsuit top. And so I think the appeal of the Society of Fat Mermaids group is just like, you don't have to hide here. And I think there are a lot of people who still, it's like, oh, like there are a lot of people who will, you know, only post pictures in our group because it feels like a safe space, you know, and hopefully at some point they feel comfortable posting in a larger space if that's what they want to do. But just knowing that like we're here to like love on you and celebrate you, and like as you are, you know, not like, because like when you grow up or just live with like any type of body that doesn't look like a magazine body, and I'm going to say anybody, like not even just like fat bodies, but especially fat bodies, but not exclusively fat bodies, you're kind of taught like, oh, you know, maybe you can find love after you lose 30 pounds. Perhaps you could travel once you lose 80 pounds. Like it's this weird thing that like culture tells you that like you should not be living until you reach your goal weight or a certain idealized weight. And we're just like, no, you can be a mermaid right now. There's no magical like mermaid body type. Like do it now. Your body's welcome here. Like, you know, if you want to lose weight or whatever, that's your personal relationship with your body. But like, we're not going to tell you to hide until you get to this thing that you may or may not ever get to. But like right here, right now, you have a body and you have a life and you can be living it, and not just like fighting your physicality in hopes that one day it conforms to somebody else's ideal and then you start living.
Yeah. I hate the idea of waiting. Like if I could just do this, and you just keep pushing it off and pushing it off. And then that thing that will bring you joy, you just never get there. Right. And
right.
So why not do it now?
Yeah. And like, I feel like the whole scam of capitalism is that like, you don't even realize that like, you've never got there. You feel like you're not worthy of it. You know what I mean? It's like, because that's part of the wait. It's like, wait until you deserve it. You know, whether it's like, you're going to wait until you like get this raise to do this thing, or wait until you know, get this body type to do that thing. Like, so that it's like a thing you have to do to like earn your life. And it's like, you don't have to earn your life. You're living it right now. So like, enjoy it right now. But I think like the gag is that I feel like a lot of times, like, yeah, like you hear people like elderly go, oh, I shouldn't have waited. But while people are in that waiting process, they just feel like they haven't like earned the right yet. And it's like, you don't have to earn the right. Like it's like enjoying your life is your birthright. Like, what else are we here for? I mean, I don't know. I mean,
earn the right. I love that. Like that puts words to feelings I've had inside me before, but I never quite knew how to like articulate them. You're right. Like earn the right, or I don't deserve this yet. That's crazy. And those are all restrictions that we put on ourselves. It's like nobody's telling us that stuff. I mean, yeah, society and media for sure, but it's like I really don't give a crap about them anymore in
I
my life.
mean, you don't want to, but like I don't, it's like when people tell me like, oh, I'm not racist. And it's like, how did you like, unless you like exist in a vacuum, like a full vacuum, like the soup, you're boiled in racist soup, you know, like, and you can like try to wash it off, but like society is just so omnipresent. Like we can know better, but it created everything we know, you know? So it's like you have to do so much like unlearning and relearning
Mm,
and like checking, you know, like, oh my gosh, like I love the Society of Fat Mermaids because it has like it just pushes me to be such a better person constantly in a
mm.
variety of ways. And, you know, I'll be like, something will happen and I'm like, whoa, that was like kind of fat phobic, eh? And it's like, oh, let's unpack that. Let's figure out why that's still sitting in our brain because we know it's wrong, you know? And but I don't think there's ever like a point where you can be like, I mean, we can hope that we don't care what society says, but like, how can you not? Like, it's the air, you know?
Yeah. Well, part of it is my robot brain. It doesn't operate like normal humans, so
Oh, good for you.
I got a slight advantage to that.
Nice, nice.
But you know, I was thinking about Society of Fat Mermaids. I think fat you could almost replace with inclusive, because you guys do welcome every, I mean, race, creed, shape, size. It doesn't matter. And like you said, it feels like a safe place for people to kind of share this common interest and, you know, just kind of be, like you said, out of their human, I guess maybe in their human form online and not have to worry about it.
I like that. Like, I definitely have been toying for a long time with like the word mermaids because we do welcome all genders and I want all genders to feel very comfortable in our space. And I toy with it because it's like everyone's welcome. It is mostly like femme identified people, not exclusively, but mostly, you know. So it's like, well, we're mostly mermaids. One of my friends kind of feels like mermaids is to human or mermaids is to merfolk as mankind is to humans, where it's like, you know, mankind includes all genders. And I'm like, I don't know. Like, but it's definitely something I toy with and I also struggle with because for me, mermaiding like is like a hyper feminine thing for me, like personally, but I don't think it is exclusively uh like I just got to like judge the King and Queen of the Seas pageant, which is why I was on my first cruise and like like all the mermen made it to the top 10. Um, you know, like and the way they represented like a variety of masculinities was just very like cool to observe. So it's not that I feel like mermaiding is inherently feminine, but like for me it is. And so it's like weird because it's like, do I want to, yeah, like Society of Inclusive Merfolk? Like what do we do? Do we, I don't know. So it is like renaming, rebranding is something I toy with um and have never quite like landed anywhere. And it's weird because nobody's ever like pointed their finger at me like, hey, this should be, you know,
Hmm.
like merfolk, but like I do question and ponder and like I've not landed, but I'm percolating. So
I
thank you.
get you. Well, I think like, at least in my brain, mermaid is kind of like band-aids. You know, it's like the brand name has become the ubiquitous term for like everything
Right.
that ever. So it just, I don't know. To me, it feels like it super fits.
Thank you. Yeah. And I mean, and there is that, right? Like for just SEO, you know, like
Yeah.
people in the community use the term merfolk, but people outside of the community don't, you know? So it's like, yeah,
Yeah, they
things
totally
to
get
think
it.
about.
But yeah, I was you mentioned it, and I saw that you were part of the Imperial Council.
The
Did I say that right?
Imperial Council,
It
yes.
sounds so majestic and official. I love it.
It was, they are so majestic. I felt like, so the Imperial Council, was made up of myself, and I applied to compete in the pageant and then got pulled in to be on the Imperial Council. Hannah Mermaid, who, by all accounts, everybody I know calls her the first professional mermaid.
Hmm.
Mermaid Serena, who is like the Singapore mermaid. She does these amazing tank shows in Singapore, and she also has a mermaid school, and so she's taught like hundreds of merfolk. She's so just like graceful and stunning in the water. And then mermaid Cariel, who's been mermaiding, I think, for over a decade in Hawaii. She has like mermaid shows that she puts on with different resorts. She makes mermaid tops, she makes mermaid tails. And then Justin Lutsky, who is an underwater photographer, who I think started shooting mermaids like a handful of years ago. And so, like, I felt like Justin and I were a little bit like the misfit judges, which actually ended up being really cool because we ended up having a special bond. Like, we discovered that we like both love musicals, him a little more so than me, but like, and there'd be moments where we just like sneak off and have ice cream together. And so it was like a very like special thing. But like those three, like Hannah and Cariel and Serena, are just legends in the mer world, and they're also incredible entrepreneurs, because it's like you don't happen to like. I think sometimes certain types of entrepreneurship gets overlooked because like they are their own product in a way, you know?
Mm.
And so it's like you just go, oh my gosh, they're just so stunning and magical. And like Cariel, she's like mermaid Barbie come to life. And it's like, yeah, but to like think that, to brand yourself that way, to like be in all those places, like she
Mm.
is an amazing entrepreneur, you know? But I think sometimes like the beauty like can almost hide the like work. But yeah, they, wow, just amazing. And it was such an incredible experience to spend, because we were trapped on a boat together, you know, to spend. It wasn't just like a weekend or a day or even a thing where it's like, oh, this thing's in DC and people end up with dinner reservations all over the city. Like, we were trapped on a boat together, and so you end up just at some point hanging out with people to the point at which, you know, people let their hair down and they stop becoming, wow, this legend, and they just start becoming that person, you
Yeah.
know? And so that was pretty cool too.
How did it feel to be? I'm assuming they're something of idols to you. How did it feel to be kind of like put amongst them as like we're colleagues in this sort of thing?
It was a kind of weird experience. It was, I mean, it was, I think the intensity of the trip, I more so was feeling grateful that I didn't have to go through the effort of competing, because that's just
Mm.
hard work, right? Like judging or counseling, or like, it's weird. They came up with like Imperial Council because mermaids don't judge. But then we never came up with like the verb for what we were doing, evaluating, you know, like it's like, okay, so if we're not judging this pageant, we're observing, noting, you
Mm.
know. But anyways, whatever that verb is challenging in its own way, but it's a very in the moment thing. You know, it's not the work of like, I have to get this act together and I have to present this way and I have to walk this way. Like, I'm not being evaluated in the same way, I'll say. And so mostly I was just feeling the relief of the pressure of like, I don't have to like figure out a talent act and also pack for a cruise on short notice. Like, I just have to show up. So mostly I was feeling, but I still get to be there, right? The relief slash joy. And to sit amongst them, it was just really cool. And like, they were so down to earth and so chill. And like, as much as like I called myself a misfit judge, like they didn't treat me like that. You know what I
Mm.
mean? Like, now they have history just due to the fact that they've all been in this industry together for years. And so like, you know, like there's just like, hey, do y'all remember this thing that happened when I didn't even know that mermaid tails existed, you know? And like, so they have like history and things that like obviously they have bonds over, but um they did not treat me like a misfit judge at all. And that was really cool and really powerful. And oh my gosh, I forgot, like Also, the woman, one of the organizers of the pageant, Mermaid Saluna, who is based in Hawaii as well, formerly the Hamptons Mermaid, and like she put this whole thing together and welcomed me and like literally gave me a seat at the table, and it's just
Hmm.
absolutely amazing.
Does that feel like confirmation of all this work you've been putting in?
This is going to sound weird, but
Good. I like weird.
I got my confirmation when I left that experience. So I left that
Huh.
experience and so one part of the confirmation was from my friends, and from, the people who were there telling me like, oh my gosh, I'm so happy, you're on the council. I got really upset when I didn't see you get called as a contestant
Hmm.
because I was posting a lot about the pageant. Like I was tagging people like, oh, you should apply, like, and all this. And they're like announcing the people like one by one. And I'm not one of them. And people are like livid and they're texting me. And I don't know what to say or do because at this point, I do know I'm on the council, but I don't think I'm allowed to tell anybody. And so like I'm feeling like I'm like Tyra Banksing people because like I'm having to go through these like emotional things and I'm like, ah. But like when I talk to everybody, like nobody was like salty like who are you and why are you here. Everybody was just like I'm so like grateful you're on the panel, like this totally makes sense, like so I think that was very affirming. And then the like next affirming situation was I left there and I went to hang out with my cousin and she lives in Orlando and money is a little tight right now, so I took the bus and I grew up like depending on the year. Actually, I think what it is that I grew up middle class, but my parents had us thinking we were upper middle class. If that makes sense, it should, because America. But so I didn't grow up like taking the bus from city to city. So this was like a little uncomfortable for me. And I'm on the bus and I'm like asleep because I was just on this ridiculous adventure. And the woman in front of me slams her seat down on the back of my knees. And she must have known that it was like a little bit much because she turned and like made eye contact with me and she kind of made this face like, sucks to be you. And I was like, so because I woke up, like my child, not mature brain grabs the seat and just starts shaking it. And it's like, well, I mean, if you have the right to slam it on my knees, I have the right to shake you around. And then that's nothing I'm proud of at all. Um, and so then I'm like, this obviously isn't going to work. Like, we're not going to sit on this bus and like torture each other for the next 3 hours. Like, that's not winning for anyone. Also, somebody had already been thrown off of the bus. When I tell you this was like an adventure, it was an adventure. Somebody's already been thrown off the bus, but that also means that we have the type of bus driver who's like not going to take like any chaos. So I like, I guess, take a breath, and almost no one on the bus spoke English, including this woman. And I like try in my, I haven't really studied Spanish outside of Duolingo in a decade plus to like negotiate with her. And I did. And I was able to like de escalate the situation and convinced her to raise the seat up a little bit. And it was just like an eye opening moment because I was like, that's what people see in me. Like I have the like soft skills that are like hard to articulate. And that is like honestly at this moment, like one of the things I'm most proud of in my life. Like I de-escalated a situation and like came to like a reasonable like compromise where she could be comfortable and I could be comfortable in a language I'm not fluent in. Like, and I'm like, that's why I was on the council. Like it's not necessarily like I don't have the fanciest tail. Well, I didn't. I got a really fancy one the other day though, or on the cruise. But it's like it's not because I have the fanciest tail. It's not because I have like the most Instagram followers. Like there is like soft skills that are harder to pin down that other people see in me that I kind of take for granted, but they're the type of thing that allows me to de-escalate a situation in a language I'm not fluent in. And that's why I was on the council. And it was kind of just this like light bulb moment in the weirdest space.
Hmm. Well, that ability to de-escalate, is that something that you've had to work on over time? Were you a little bit spicy kind of in your younger years?
Um, Probably in my youngest years. Yeah. Um, like as a child, I was a little spicy. My mom, I think, felt like she was too meek growing up. And so she always raised me to be assertive.
Ah,
And I think it's hard when you're young to find that space between like assertive and still have like good people skills, you know?
yeah.
Like as a
Well,
kid, you're just like blunt. You're like, I don't like that. You know?
well, also for women, it's like it's different for you guys because there's a whole different societal expectation of how you should behave and all this stuff. So what's good for men, like oh that's a strong assertive man. If a woman does it, a lot of times people say oh she's just being a bitch or something like what I mean.
Right.
So it's
Right.
that
And then you
double
throw like
standard.
race onto it, like, and it just
Yeah,
becomes this whole other like layer. But I mean, I don't feel like I had like a major like arc of like, oh, I was like an angry kid and I needed to overcome that. Like, not really. I think I've just been able to like, due to a variety of reasons, like hone those soft skills over years. Like, I'm a big old nerd, so like I did letter in something in high school, but I lettered in debate. Like I literally lettered in debate, oratory, and
nice.
forensics. I didn't know you could get letters for that, but apparently I could have it on a jacket somewhere. I don't know. My mom just sold like the house I grew up with, but somewhere exists, this letter that could go in a letterman's jacket, but it's for debate and forensics. Like, um, so I think just slowly over life, I just became better at those soft things. Um, I'm a lot older than a lot of other merfolk, not all merfolk, but there are a lot of, people in their teens and 20s who get into this and they just
Hmm.
have not had the life experience to realize that most of this stuff really isn't that big of a deal. And so I think that, age is part of it. And just, I feel like soft skills get slowly like developed over like your lifetime. And so that's
For
what
sure.
makes them hard to like pinpoint, like, oh, I'm good at this because of this. And it's like, it's just like, you just learn to navigate the world. And yeah.
Yeah. Well, you said one of your favorite things to do is like when you're talking to people is give them affirmations and make them feel important and seen. It's like why is that like such a big deal for you?
Honestly, I have no clue. Nobody's ever asked me why. I mean, because it feels good, but
It
like why
absolutely
I've
feels good.
decided,
Yeah.
yeah. But I don't know. I don't know.
Does it
I'm
feel
not,
important for you to do it?
I think it's because people like just walk around so unnecessarily like miserable.
Hmm.
Like, and miserable is a strong word, but I feel like a lot of folks just have this like low grade, like I'm not enough, like nobody sees me. And I just somewhere along the lines like made it my life mission to just feel like if I can live as an example, like which is cool, right? Because like it's like have an awesome life and other people will too, but it's also true. Like especially I think if you like exist in like a like marginalized body or whatever, like I got to meet Richard Branson on the trip, which was really cool. But like, like okay, he's living a great life. Like, okay, whatever. You're like this like rich billionaire person who like somehow got knighted. Like, okay, yeah, I expect you to have an awesome life. But like I don't necessarily like look like the person you expect to just be having like a magical life or whatever. And so when I do it, people are like, huh, I could maybe add a little more joy to my life. But I don't know when I decided that that was like my thing, which was just like, we're just going to like live a little bigger and encourage other people to do it. But I feel like it's a lot easier to be like happy and more vibrant than we make it out to be. Like we act like it's like this like secret, and it's like it's literally Dorothy with her slippers, where it's like you had it the whole time. You
Mhm.
just needed to use it. But I don't know why I've decided that like that's important to me, but it is. But also like day job, I'm a massage therapist. And so, I was talking to somebody the other day and it's like, well, those two things couldn't be any more different. And I'm like, in theory, they couldn't, except because I do like the motivational stuff, like in a way, like I do mermaid in a like nurturing way, which is not necessarily what most merfolk do, but it's like the way I do it. And so there is overlap. And obviously, like, whew, you learn a lot of soft skills rubbing on other people over the course of 16 years, let me tell you.
That's the audio clip I'm going to use. Just that right there out of context. It's going to be
yes,
perfect.
you learn a lot of soft skills rubbing on other people. Yeah.
But I get it because, like, yeah, people are, I mean, in a vulnerable state, and also they want to talk, right? They just, it's a very intimate setting. I get it.
But also, like, sometimes they're like buttholes. And like my boss said to me about, I mean, it was so long ago. I think it was a decade ago. She's like, those are the people who really need a massage. And I'm like, and it just really helps turn on that like empathy and that openness to be like, let's see if you're still an asshole when I'm done with you. Let's see if somebody is just like loving on you for an hour. Like, are you still an ass? And most of them aren't. And I'm like, okay, like.
Yeah, it's that idea, like, you never know what somebody's walking in the door with, right? There's this whole set of problems, this whole life they're living that you have no view into, but when they walk out of the door, maybe they could be a little happier because of something you did or said. And I love the idea. Like, for me, like, the idea of leaving a legacy has always been something kind of floating around in my head. And for me, it's I guess the closest approximation I ever came to was, if I could just give people gentle nudges, over time, maybe it'll turn into something big, and it'll push in one direction or the other better.
And it absolutely does. Like, I'm always just thinking about, like, when I'm doing something, like, what did it take to like get me here, right? And I'm in a like complicated relationship with TikTok right now, but like we were like hot and heavy over the summer, and I think, like maybe in August, I hit like 200,000 TikTok followers. And like, I never expected to do that. And I'm like, dude, I wouldn't even be on TikTok if my friend Becky didn't tell me the right way to like film the video. Or rather, I'd posted like 3 videos in like, the horizontal format, and they did nothing. And like TikTok wasn't doing anything for me. And then one day Becky's like, oh, let me film some stuff for you this way for TikTok. And like one of those things that she filmed went viral. And that's definitely like opened up so many different doors for me. And it wouldn't have happened if like, and that was not like some major, like, I didn't pay a class for her to do that. It was just like casually, she's like, hey. And I feel like that's so much of life, is just little things that we do for each other. But like that 10-second interaction, definitely opened up so many doors for me. We're just casually talking, and you're like, is Mermaid is Life a shirt? For all we know, that's going to be my top selling shirt, and it's a thing I say all the time, but it took you going, why isn't that on a shirt, for me to go, that needs to be on a shirt, So like, I do think that is how legacy is built. And it's also like something we like, it's so natural, we take it for granted. But I think when you like stop and reflect on it, it's just so powerful, it's like nothing happens in a vacuum. And so like one of my I don't like the term pet peeve, because I'm like, are you like collecting things to be annoyed about? Like, however, one of mine is when people are like, I'm self-made. And like, I get that some people have more starting resources than others, but like nobody does anything on their own, period. Like, some people get a lot more help than others, but like, you cannot do anything on your own, like it's impossible. So
yeah, I feel like I am only just like a conglomeration of all the interactions I've had over a lifetime. And so when people were kind enough to give me the gift of their wisdom, maybe if it's just a little thing here or there, I collect that stuff. Like every time I talk to somebody, like I collect these little things, and they just live in my head and hopefully make me a better human, and I can use those for other people. But yeah, I totally get like the idea of, I never really thought about, it's always like sort of annoyed me when I've heard somebody say, yeah, I'm self-made, I'm XYZ, because to me, it feels like they're giving themselves all the credit. And it's like, yeah, I see you're successful. You don't have to scream to me that you did it on your own. It's like, that doesn't take anything away from your accomplishment if you still had help. I don't understand why people like, why that's so important to them.
I think it's because like they resent my guess my, armchair psychology is that they resent people that they feel like had more opportunities than they did. People whose families were able to assist them, people who, maybe got into that like cohort group or that, incubator. And so they're like, I did it all on my own, but it's like, it's literally impossible. Like, it's really, I mean, I could be sitting here and be like, hi, my name is Chè Monique and I run the Society of Fat Mermaids. And, you can go into my Facebook group and it's me and two other people. Like, like it doesn't work. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. Cause I mean, it's, it's a village that it takes to do a lot of this stuff, especially when you're making a community. Cause it's like, to me, what you're doing is different. You're kind of building this environment. Like, I see people that have good intentions and they do good things, but they never really go big with it. You know what I mean? They keep it just kind of in this small circle. I think that's fine. If you can affect a couple of people positively here or there, I think you're doing good. But the fact that you went out of your way to start building like this dramatically large community to affect good and change in people, like that gets me excited when I see people do that. For one, it's like, where do you get the balls to do that? And
my dad.
because to me, it's like, that stuff scares me. It's like, I want to do good. I want to help. But I'm afraid to attempt anything at that grand a scale. So it's like, I'm always in awe of people that really do go out of their way to like bring a lot of light to a lot of people.
Well, thank you. And I definitely at this point am conducting a runaway train. Like, I was not expecting our Facebook group to be as large as it is. I was not expecting, like, I just did an interview before I talked to you with someone in South Africa. Like, I was not expecting, like, to that, like, my like pillow talk with my husband is like, who's interviewing me when, like, who, like, is this something I have to go to? Do they need to come to the house? Like that, like, do we have to clean the house? Like, okay, great. This one's just on Zoom. So I just need to like angle the camera this way. Okay. So like, it's totally a runaway train. And I say that to say, like, just do what you want to do, and if it hits people, it'll hit people. I do think obviously there was like a slight intuition that it was going to grow, in the choice of the name Society, because that does imply a certain amount of scale. And I think that gave me power, because when it was like me and my two friends, people thought it was thousands of us. And so they would listen to me. And I have this one friend and she's like, how is it like I reached out to those same people and they never wrote me back. And I'm like, I just threw the word society in front of my name and they thought it was like 100 of me. So they listened, it's a wild hunch. But and then it became hundreds of us, and then it became thousands of us, which is like pretty darn cool. But I'm not gonna flatter myself and say that I had like some master plan. Now I have like weirder feelings towards him, but I remember an article about Bezos. It was a long time ago, but it was when like we thought Amazon was the thing that it is now, if that makes sense. And he said, oh, I'm just on day one. And I'm like, what kind of ridiculous master plan does this guy have? We thought he like completely took over our whole economy and rechanged like just the way we look at the world and interact with the world. And he's saying he's only on day one. And like, I want to be that kind of mastermind, but I'm not. Like, I'm not.
I would guess most people kind of fake their way into that stuff. And
Yeah,
any like intuition they try and subscribe to it, to me just says that they're trying to convince the stockholders they know what they're doing. Like, please
valid.
don't freak out. I don't know.
Right, it's only day one. We've got like all these levels to go.
Yeah, it sounds very like Svengali sort of stuff. It's like you were saying that you didn't necessarily know where the train was going to go. And I guess at first it wasn't even a train. Maybe it was like a tandem bike with you and your friends hanging out. But somebody once told me that art, you start in one place and you maybe have something in mind that you're going to go with it. But then the art has a mind of its own and it's going to lead you where it wants you to go. And So it will always turn into something else. And I think you can never judge the scale of it. You can never quite tell where it's going to end up. And I think it should always be ever evolving, right? Like, it sounds like you're always, I mean, you were marinating over the name of the group itself, right? So it's like, it sounds like it's something always in flux and always marinating. And I think it's awesome to stay kind of fast and loose and always grow and always continuously change and build. Do you feel like there's some kind of high watermark you're waiting for before you say it's like, man, we've made it? Or is it always just something that's going to just keep growing and it is what it is?
Okay, I will feel like we made it. Okay, there's a low watermark that I thought I would have already passed and I have not. And then there's the high watermark and then there's the full answer. So the low watermark is when I can quit my day job. And I'm emphasizing can because I always wonder, like, if I didn't have to do massage, would I still do massage? And the answer is probably yes. But like when I'm only working because I want to, that's the low water mark. And I did think that I would have been there already, where it's like mermaiding is sustaining my existence. So that's like, that'll feel like we made it. That'll, that just like helps you navigate like the capitalism, and it'll help me do all the other things, right? Like, I have notebooks because I'm like old school. I like legal pads. That's like my happy place. I have like legal pads full of like things I've been meaning to do for the past 4 years. We have a podcast that has like 5 episodes. There's like 2 more that are recorded. There's people that want me to interview them that I want to interview. And somewhere in there, like in between taking interviews, I forgot to conduct interviews. Like I would like to be doing that consistently. And it's hard to just manage it all. And part of it is like I have a day job, and then like I have a husband, and I'm like a mom, and I have a niece, and like like I don't know, trying to be all things to all people. So low watermark is quit your day job. High watermark when we have like our first physical like retreat location, because one of the hardest things about mermaiding is that, and I fear that it's going to get worse before it gets better, is that a lot of pools don't allow us to swim. And so when I have a space that's like moderately easily accessible for folks to like come and swim and hang out and like host retreats and all that, like when I buy my first physical facility or our first physical facility, that'll be like a whoa, like that'll kind of be like a we made it moment. But also I am totally enjoying the runaway train. Like there is no end goal. Like, and I think that that's a hard thing for people, but as much as I have like directions, like I do not have a set destination either for my mermaid life or my life in general. Like it's pretty amazing. Like I feel like I'm kind of living in like a choose your own adventure or like some sort of like quest, like but video game style, like not a book where it's all written out, where it's just like you hit this level and then you can like go this way or that way, and you like hit this and there's just a treasure chest and you open it up and you're like, whoa, now that we have this new whatever mabobber, we can go to level such and such. And it's been like so cool. And I'm not a gamer. You can tell I'm not a gamer because I'm being very big about this. But it's been just so cool how like things have just been like unfolding and like presenting themselves to me, and it's like, oh yes, I do think I'll try this thing. I'm mostly saying yes to everything for the most part. It's kind of fun, but like I wouldn't even want to put like an end on that. So that's for Society of Fat Mermaids. And then for Mermaid Chè Monique, like will be like way up there. Like 2 huge things. If like I start booking celebrity parties, like A-list parties, but also I want a show in Vegas, like Mermaid Chè Monique and Friends. I want like, there's the Silverton Casino does have an aquarium that has mermaid shows, but I think it's just like a free thing that happens a couple times a day. That's like just like a fun thing. Like I want like Cirque du Soleil, but underwater. Like
Wow.
That's like, yeah, like that's my look, ma. Like, whoa. While I will still be open to life unfolding itself, like I'll feel pretty darn satisfied if that happens.
That'll just be another chapter in this crazy story. That is so insane.
New book, like I don't like. I mean, even the logistics, like what kind of underwater stage situation do you need? Like, where is the audience relative to the water? Like just so much fun stuff for like engineers to figure out or something. I don't know. Yeah.
That sounds awesome. Well, you were talking about a retreat location. Like, describe to me, like, what does that look like? Would that, I'm assuming that wouldn't be in DC, or would it? Would you be somewhere like warmer climate?
I am all for like yes and. So I have three basic fantasy versions of this place. Three and a half. One is a property that's I just stumbled upon it because I'm one of those people who loves to look at real estate and like I'll just be driving and be like, I wonder what kind of land is around here. Like, and literally since I was a kid, like I was like 9 and like the real estate section of the newspaper was my favorite. Like,
Oh
don't
my
know
gosh.
why, but it was. Um, so there is a property that is pretty centrally located right off of 95, kind of in the middle of the eastern seaboard, that has, I think, 35 acres with a 12-acre lake. That's right off the highway. And I'm sure that lake isn't currently swimmable, but due to the magic of science and engineers and something, I'm sure it can be cleaned up. Like I've watched people clean up lakes. Like I don't know what's involved, but helping smart people have great employment is like, one of the joys of entrepreneurship, right? So, we'll get a team, they'll clean up the lake. I feel like while it's being cleaned, it's probably fishable though. So it can like, I feel like this space can evolve where like it can be like kind of like a fishing retreat camping place
Hmm.
while the water is being like cleaned until it can be like swimmable. And then I can have like, you can have mermaid entertainment as like a roadside attraction because I feel like we need more of those. So you can have a restaurant with like mermaid shows. Um, and I feel like it can grow like over time, over money, over demand, and have like, so it can start out like a campsite and it can get built up into more of like a like shishi retreat. Because as much as I'm like, oh, I can have a campsite, I just told you I don't even want to take the bus for 4 hours. Like I can't. Like I would like a 3-star higher hotel, please. So, but there are people who like to camp, and honestly, like I wish I grew up with that because I feel like I'm limited in some way. Like my friends who are comfortable like camping and like RVing and like backpacking. I even have a friend who like travels the globe, but like on Spirit. And they're like, yeah, I totally just like take a small backpack to China and that's all I need. And I'm like, no, I think you need like 5 suitcases to go to China. No. And like, as much as like on the one hand, like it's like, oh, like I'm such a princess, I need 5 suitcases. Like if I could do it with just a backpack, I feel like the globe gets opened up to you in a different way, right? Because like to require a 3-star higher hotel, like you're kind of like you're very limited by like money, but like once you can kind of like let go of some creature comforts, like you know, you can see the world. So that's like a goal is to like get comfortable with less. That's like a personal desire because I do want to have like more access to the world and not be limited by like my own princessness. But I mean, I don't feel like that's everybody's goal. So I would like people with my current level of princessness to be comfortable at my space as well. So, but I think, whatever, rent it out as a campsite and as the budget allows, grow it into more of like, and I like spaces, like I've definitely stayed at places where it's like, oh, we have this like indoor facility and also there's campsites available. And I think that's pretty cool when spaces do both. So that's one space. Northern Virginia has like a wine country. So I like this idea of having like a fat mermaid winery. With like a lake or a quarry or just like some like I mean we can dig the lake, right? It could be man-made, but it wouldn't be it wouldn't the swimming wouldn't be 4 seasons, but you could also have like maybe an indoor pool. So I have these fantasies and like this happens in like every retreat and in Dream House where there's like a mermaid tank that is a wall of the building. So
Oh,
it's
that's
like
cool.
right? right? So like you can look from the outside in or inside out. And so like maybe you can't swim in the lake 4 seasons, but maybe you can swim in this tank 4 seasons. And mermaid tanks, every mermaid, not, I didn't want to swim in a tank actually, because I was like, I don't want to be like a fish in a bowl. I don't want to be like an animal in a cage. So
Hmm.
like tank swimming didn't appeal to me, but what tanks do is they're really easy to film in, and so they allow you to connect with the world differently. And so yeah, like discovering the joy of tanks also has like opened up my world in a different way. But a lot of people like dream of being able to swim in a tank, and there really aren't a lot of mermaid tanks. So um yeah, so we could have a vineyard. So now it's like not even like, so it's a winery. People around here like to just like go hang out at the winery. So now you've got like a cute, like kind of typical resort, but that is like mermaid friendly. So you can like do your wine tasting. You can like hang out by the fireplace if it's cold. You can like have some spa action. But also we have a lake. We're very mermaid friendly. If we have enough land, it can still once again be like, you can camp if you want, or you can stay at the inn, you
Right.
know. So that's kind of the like Northern Virginia version. And then sometimes I see online that like land sitting on the Florida Springs is for sale. Someone just bought, okay, so one of the like joys of living in DC is everything costs way too much, which is not a joy. But what it does is it makes things in other parts of the country seem really, really cheap. Like, because you just like compare it to
Hmm.
DC real estate and you're like, wait. So I can have like 5 acres of land for the cost of an apartment here. Huh. Like, seriously. And so so someone just sold like a retreat facility on the Florida Springs. I think it was for less than $4 million. And it was already like existing buildings. So like you didn't have to like develop it or anything. It was like there was a main like retreat house, and then there were like cabins that you could rent out, and there's all these beautiful springs. So I will always be looking for like what's available in the Florida Springs. Also, I kind of want an island. So, you know.
Definitely getting higher in the list of fantasy areas. I could see that.
But I mean, also, you see islands for sale for like less than $5 million. Like the houses across the street from me are like $1 million. Like my apartment, definitely not $1 million apartment, but the house I can see right out of my window right now is $1 million house. So you go, wait, or what, 5 of those houses in a row, or a whole island? Like it seems pretty relatively cheap when you think of it that way. Like again, compared to DC real estate.
All right. Well, fantasy fulfilled. You've got your resort in Florida. Like, what are you doing on it? Like, are you having like mermaid shows? Are you? I mean, earlier you mentioned you teach mermaiding to
I
people.
do.
Was that something you would just like do all of that stuff kind of in tandem? Do you see like having a school of mermaids? I mean, what do you guys call yourselves when you're all
I guess it
together?
would be a school of fish. Yeah. Oh, actually, we're a pod. Okay. So the one thing we're going to do in Florida that I feel like is not an existing thing, because like most of the things I want to do, they're already happening, right? Like it's not like revolutionizing the world, but I want to have mermaid open mics. So I do want like a big tank with um like a little amphitheater built around it. And I want, like, if you're staying at the retreat, obviously like you can use it and swim in it. Um, it would be, I feel like I want to do this as like a shipping container pool, or maybe like a multi-shipping container pool. Um, and so sometimes it would just kind of be a pool that's available to swim in. But because like, you know, most of us, like, it's like if you're a mermaid but nobody sees it, does it exist, you know? Like, so it's like our content's really important to us. So it would definitely be the type of thing where you can also reserve like times to use it solo, you know, or with like your own small group, because you don't necessarily want everybody in your videos or whatever. But I would also like to do open mics, kind of where like people can just come perform for an audience, even if they're not like a pro mer, because it's like such a dream for people. And I think it could be really, really fun, and like some really neat stuff could come out of it. It could be like a really interesting professional development thing. For some people, to be very bucket listy. For some people, it will be like an opportunity to workshop stuff. But that's the one thing that I would love to do that I don't see that exists in like the mer world. Beyond that, um, yeah, the space would just have opportunity for like mermaid lessons and training, tail rentals. I'm sure we'd have some sort of cool retail thing. Um, I guess if like the space is like dedicated to MERS, then there should be like performance slash touristy opportunity, like an opportunity for people to come see performances. But
Right,
like
right.
really, I just want it to be a place for like for my friends to hang out, or and like in my friends in the very like global sense, like just a safe space to be a mermaid. So yeah, lessons if you need lessons, you can come swim. You can get your certifications there. Uh, you know, it will be very convenient for photographers. Obviously, depending on where we are, I definitely would want to have a good relationship with the community. It might be a space where we offer like free swimming lessons for like kids. Because like water safety is so important, and like a space where you can like teach about like environmental activism. But I mean, mostly it's just like we need a space we can be. Um, and I will say one of the hard things, so like the Florida Springs, all the ones I know about, I guess this is what geology, whatever. Um, Most of the springs are like, inland, so they're in the middle of the state, and they're like, like in rural Florida, and
Mm.
rural Florida is not necessarily a place where you feel comfortable being like black or gay or a woman by yourself or like a
Right.
lot of things. And
Yeah.
so um somehow so I think we'll offer airport shuttles as like an option. Like I don't know where we'll be and how far it'll be, but it might be like, hey, because yeah, I've been on a couple springs trips now, and you start driving and you start getting closer to your destination, and it you just start seeing signs and flags and stuff that just make me a little uncomfortable. And I feel like that's a thing the mer community doesn't talk about a lot. Like it's like, oh, if you can come to the springs, and it's like getting to the springs can be scary
Mm.
if you have a certain identity. So yeah, we definitely would have to have an airport shuttle, and then we can have like a safe space type thing. It was actually funny. I went to the Florida Springs Mermaids. They have an annual gathering called Spring Splash, and I went for the first time in May. It was amazing. Um, and it was at a place called Ginny Springs. In Ginny Springs, it was like Mother's Day weekend. And so thousands of people were out just like hanging out, and there just happened to be this small mermaid event in like this one little corner. But so many people come out and hang out at Ginny Springs, and it's just like such like a party, and it seems really cool, and like I would like to come for the party part of it.
Mm.
People just like camp and like just vibe, and people have golf carts that they bring because Florida. And there was this one golf cart going around, and it had this flag on it, and it's the weirdest thing because we were like, what is that flag? And like something about it, like maybe the coloring or whatever, like we kind of thought it was a Confederate flag. And then um and so there's kind of like every time you see this golf cart, you're like, what's going on? And then we finally read the flag, and it said tits out for the boys. And like the way my friends and I breathed this sigh of relief, because it was like, oh, okay, this is not like probably like violent racism. This is just like casual everyday misogyny. Like I can handle that. Like
Oh my days.
it just was like it was such a weird moment because it's like, okay, just don't be around them, after they've had too much to drink. But like it's such a weird thing because like tits out for the boys is not exactly like a like welcoming and like affirming sign either. But relative to the Confederate flag, it was like a major improvement.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. That's I mean, that's the idea, right? Like when you want somebody to agree to something, you have to shock them first and then give them the, kind of the little bit softer play. Like, oh, okay, that's not so bad. We're good then. Yeah. I get it. It's all strategy. There's easing you into it.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Yeah. But when you were talking about like the tank where people could kind of go and film their videos and stuff. Like in my head, I could envision like you have like some nice like 4K camera set up with like a big monitor on the other side, so you could actually like see what you're doing, like as like part of the experience. If you go into the tank, it's like you just kick it on to record and you could see yourself and practice.
Oh, that'd be cool. Yeah,
that'd be really dope.
Justin, the other like misfit judge with me, Justin Lutsky, when he shoots, a lot of times he has like a monitor, and so and his business partner Abby does like model coaching, and I got to shoot with them once, and it was so cool because it's like, yeah, you take a bunch of pictures, he like replays them for you instantly. And like, I mean, I've been with photographers and like, oh, it's terrible when it's aquatic too, because like you're also like treading water, or you're like hanging onto the edge of the pool and you're like both looking over on their like one little camera screen. And it's like, oh, okay, I think we got that one, but like he'll put it up on a huge screen. And so you can like really see A, if you got the shot, but like B, because you're working with like a model coach actively, like she can be like, okay, you almost got the shot. Now like tweak it just this little bit. Is so cool to just have that like instant feedback. And he did that at the King and Queen of the Seas as well. Not with the coaching, but like he's shooting them and filming them, and we're getting like a live feed of like their underwater performance. That's one of the things we're like evaluating, since we weren't judging, evaluating, and then instantly we're getting the like feedback of the photos on this like TV monitor. It was pretty cool.
That is cool. Can you imagine yourself like traveling the world doing this? Like this being just your full time, where you just go around and
yes, and I don't
cool experiences.
Yeah, I can. Like I haven't figured out like how that gets monetized per se, but yeah, I can. And like due to the magic of like weird new things like TikTok, I get people inboxing me like, we love you in India. And it's like, can I go on a world tour? Like, what does that look like? What does that mean? Like, how would that go? I'm organizing a trip to Egypt next summer, like August or September of 23. And I'm excited about that. It'll be like Mermaid Chè Monique and friends, and we're just gonna like dive and hang out and like do our thing. But yeah, like I can imagine traveling the world, though I don't know the logistics. But again, that's like the fun of just like letting things keep unfolding with a little bit of direction. Like, yes, I would like to see the world. That's like direction. How it's happening, you know?
Yeah. Don't worry about that. Fate will figure all that stuff out.
Exactly.
Does your partner go with you to do all this crazy stuff too?
Not usually. Not usually. He is a sous chef at the Watergate in DC. He doesn't get a lot of time off. Sometimes I drag him along. The last big one he went to the California Mermaid Convention with me. And we had a really good time. But that was also the first time, like, so he'll do a lot of like filming for me. He likes to fish. And so I'm a firm believer that if he's going fishing for the day, he should take the first like 40 minutes of that day and film me in my mermaid tail wherever he decides to go fishing. He doesn't really agree with me, but there's like a push and pull there. You're going fishing. I need cute pictures by the water. It's a win-win-win. But the California Mermaid Convention was like the first time like he had to like run my booth on his own. He's like helped like sit at it like at the local convention, which is Mermagicon, but California Mermaid Convention, he was like pretty on his own, and he had to step up in some ways, but we had a really good time. And that was like a weird one because like he's a like very like big burly black man, and so he's like, yeah, like some of these people like I could tell they were scared of me, but like they knew you. Like, so like a weird kind of like push and pull there, and maybe not even scared of him, but just not expecting him. Like you're expecting like I'm very bubbly. He is definitely the strong silent type, you know, and so you're expecting like, she'll, oh, how are you doing today? And he's just like, uh, here's a paper doll. My wife's on it, you know, just like a totally different energy.
Oh my gosh. So I'm assuming this is growing him in ways he never anticipated, huh?
It's growing all of us. Like, I mean, this is completely just, yeah, it's like unexpected, delightful and unexpected.
That's so cool. That's so cool. How long before you think you're going to get him in the water?
No, I don't know if I'll ever, I'm sure something will happen and he'll put a tail on. I feel like what it would take to get him in a tail, like it would be somebody else. Like it wouldn't be for me. Like he'll get in the water with me, but like the actual tail, I don't think it would be for me. Like I feel like if we had kids and like the kid was like, "Daddy, you got to do it," or something, like then he'd be like, "Okay, fine." But I could also see if like I don't know, like some like other friends, but it wouldn't be for me. Like he kind of has these things where it's like, you know that song, "I will do anything for love, but I won't do that." Like it's not the mermaid tail that's explicitly that. There was I used to be very active in terms of like performing and producing burlesque, and there was a particular like show that like he went to once or twice, and he's like, I don't like these shows, and he just started refusing to go to those shows. And so those were the like kind of, but that's the joke where it's like, I will do anything for love, and he's done some interesting things for me, but it's like, but I will not go to this show ever again. So the mermaid tail is like right probably under that show.
Gotcha.
So
Well, that's cool. That's cool. And I mean, it's interesting when couples share things. So I would be curious to see. Like I definitely, I'm assuming I would see it on the Insta if you ever convince him, right?
oh
It would
yeah,
be on
oh
the,
yeah,
there's going to be
100%.
pics or it didn't happen sort of scenario.
That's yeah, basically.
Well, I mean, you could coach him up, right? You're part of the Imperial Council, right? It's like this is what you need to do. We're gonna get you in the competition next year. Man, you guys could just run the thing, bro.
That would be something.
It'd be worth doing, I think. How many? So, like at on this cruise, like how many like mer people were there?
So the way they did it was like the first round was like I guess just your virtual application, which was like really involved. So like plot twist, like it would have been cool to like know I was on the council and not. I mean, I guess my involved application is what got me on the council, you know, but it was pretty involved. And so then from the people who did the virtual application or like, you know, the like written, and there was some video and photo component as well. Then they picked the like 20 finalists. And so there were 20 contestants. And then there were like 6 of us ish on the council. I'm bad at math. Yeah, the 3. And then, yeah, 6 of us on the council. And then the pageant staff was probably about another 4-ish people. And then you had some wranglers. Yeah, we didn't get into that. Wranglers often coincide with boyfriends and husbands, but not always. But we had some wranglers, and we had a safety guy who was also like head wrangler, Don. He's amazing. So all together, there are probably like 30 of us, maybe.
Like, so it wasn't. I just assumed that like the competition was just kind of part of it, and there were also like tons of other mer
Yeah.
folk that were there. Yeah.
Well, no, there were just tons of people there, but they also on this cruise decided like as part of like because this was the mermaiden voyage of this ship, and I guess all of Virgin's new cruise ships are mermaid themed, and so this was the Valiant Lady. Excuse me. And they also decided as part of the celebration to set the Guinness record for like the most number of people in mermaid tails in a location. I'm gonna take a sip. You know, it's like in your throat, and you're like, is drinking clearing it? And it's like, not really. So they decided on the ship to set the like Guinness record for the most number of people in mermaid tails at once, which most of us were not a part of because that ended up happening like during another part of the pageant. But I guess they gave like 500 or so of the sailors mermaid tails for this like kind of Guinness record thing. So that was pretty cool. And the cruise was definitely like encouraged for like other MERS to come, but weirdly also they have like a really small pool on that boat, so it's
Hmm.
not really a good actual like place for mermaiding, like as much as like they're mermaid themed, it's like we like the mermaid aesthetic, whereas like we like the mermaid life, so um yeah, so it was mostly the 30 of us, and there's also like a bear convention happening on the boat, which was fun. And The sailors in general were definitely really into what we were doing. It was a lot of fun. And it was over Halloween, so that was cool too.
Oh, dude, that sounds like a blast. Yeah, definitely sounds like a lot of fun. I used to be a wedding photographer a million years ago, my wife and I, and we did a couple, and it was just before Halloween, and so they ended up doing their cruise, like their honeymoon wedding cruise on Halloween, and they were like, it was the best thing ever because it turns out it was like a gay cruise. Like apparently, like everybody knew to take this cruise on Halloween. She was like, it was the best,
Thing
the
like
best experience. Yeah, I don't know. So I think it very well may be. I don't know.
yeah, it might be. Yeah, it was fun. It was cool. It was really awesome. Yeah, it was really awesome.
That's
And
cool.
yeah.
Well, we're coming up on the end. I'm just curious if you meet somebody for the first time and you think they would be like a good fit for mermaiding. Like, what's your sales pitch? You got like 30 seconds. Like, how are you convincing them?
So my confession is I'm bad at my sales pitch, and my best friend's been like really teasing me about it. However, um, I'm probably like whipping out my phone and telling them, like showing them pictures, like, hey, like, have you ever like thought about mermaiding? Like, probably they're like, there's something giving me mermaid vibes from them, So
Right.
it's like, oh, I like your hair, because it's purple, or like they have like an Ariel shirt on, we have this really awesome community. Like, if they're local, like we're Metro Merfolk, we have meetups a couple times a month, so like you can just come out and hang out. It's hard too because we're still in that like late pandemic phase, and like
Yeah.
local pod pre-pandemic was like epic because I could be like, you can rent a tail when you get there. Like that stuff's not happening anymore. But like it used to be like a very easy, like we have all this going on and like we're still rebuilding. So it's a little more murky. It's like I used to be able to just like hand a person something. But if they're not local, it's like, oh, you should really look into mermaiding. It's a lot of fun. Like I always just say like Google your town or your city. We'll look it up on Facebook usually, and like pod. Like if you have a big metro area, it's like, Dallas mermaid pod. And if it's like smaller, like, you're someplace a little more rural, just be like Texas mermaid pod. And like usually something will come up and you'll find people. And we're always excited for new MERS. So it's just like once you find like at least like no more than 3 people, somebody will be ready to take you under their wing and be like, oh, you can come here and swim with me. Oh, meet me here. Let's do this. Like we're always looking for people to swim with and hang out with. And it's just fun and freeing. And then they'll be like, oh, I can't, like I could never, I'm such and such. And it's like, no, I know like like mermaid Helena's in a wheelchair. Like I weigh 300 pounds. Like this is for everyone. There's like most of like the most incredible merfolk I know. There's like mermen, like gender is totally fluid under the sea. Like, so then I like to start, like, I just like try to find a friend who fits their exception and be like, no, 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 you can totally do it because so and so is
Hmm.
such and such. So yeah, that's more
Well,
than 30 seconds, but that's kind of
no, no, no. Sell
pitch.
me on the feeling. Like, would you have the tail on and you're done up? And I don't know what your favorite part is, whether it's when you're in the water, whether you emerge, or when you're on the beach. Like, what's the feeling it gives you inside?
It's when you're in the water, it just feels so free and so magical and so fun. Like it's easier for me to swim with a fin than without it right now. And it's otherworldly, and it's the coolest thing ever.
Hmm.
And it's also so cool to see a bunch of mermaids swimming. And I love that. Like mermaiding for me is this weird thing where like the more I know how the sausage is made, just like the more impressed I am. But
Hmm.
even people who are like new to mermaiding, like sometimes I'll just be like, getting in the pool and other people already be in the pool. I'm just like, oh, I just get so captivated because I'm like, look at all the mermaids in the pool. And like I literally know how the sausage is made. I watch them drive there. I watch them put the tail on, and it's still just like so magical to see and observe and be a part of.
So you've got the tail on, you're in the water. Does anything else in the world exist in that moment? Or is it just...
If I'm being honest, the camera.
But I'm
And for
assuming,
that
I'm
reason,
assuming like,
I make a point also of going in like and be like, okay, for this 30 minutes, I'm just like having fun. Like I'm not
yeah,
recording because then nothing else exists until it's time to come up for air. It's like, oh, I'm human again. Like
just for a moment. I love that. Like it sounds like you found this kind of little secret garden that you can go to and just escape everything that's wrong with the world, which is a lot, because sometimes you just need to like turn everything off and find your zen place. It sounds like definitely, well, not even that, but also just a ton of fun for you, which is really cool.
yeah, it's just so neat. And I think one of the things that's exciting about it is like I'll never be able to like master it, right? Like I can always get better at it, but I'll never master it. Like you can always be faster, which honestly isn't one of my goals, but like there's a Merlympics, like so for some people, like faster is their goal. You can always be more graceful. You can always extend your breath hold. Like your breath hold fluctuates wildly based on so many different things because we're humans. So like even once you like hit like a PR, like can you maintain it? Like so it's just like there's this like constant like refinement. Like you can always like learn more mythology. Like so like there's like no point at which it's like, okay, I am officially like reached the pinnacle of mermaiding. Like it's just there's always more. And for some people that might seem daunting, but for me it's exciting. Because it's like so many different things I get to learn along the way.
Yeah, I mean, I totally dig that because I'm a very curious person. I love to conquer new challenges and well, one is like changing myself or the situation I'm in or adjusting to things. I love it when people challenge the way I think and pivot. And it sounds like mermaiding like gives you like it would scratch a lot of itches. I'm not saying I'm going to go and put on a tail, but I could see the appeal. Like it definitely sounds like a lot of fun.
Well, like A, do it. Mermaid Lanisa owns a school in Texas, but like B, also like, I mean, again, pictures are it didn't happen. So like, if you have a photographic background, like, I mean, our photographers are like, oh, we love them so much. So like, and that's such a way to get in the world without getting in a tail, and like, we need y'all.
All right, cool. Well, I want to be very respectful of your time. We are definitely buttoned up against it. Shay, if you wanted people to interact with you on the internet in any specific ways, what's your preferred method?
Facebook, TikTok, Instagram. I'm Mermaid Chè Monique. And for Society of Fat Mermaids, same thing. Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, Society of Fat Mermaids. And then that lovely group you were talking about, Society of Fat Mermaids, Let's Connect. We are fat centered, but everyone is welcome as long as you're respectful. And there are a lot of, actual, I swim in a tail merfolk there, but there's also just fat folks and other folks who love whimsy and just want a chill space to exist on the internet. So that's Society of Fat Mermaids, Let's Connect, and then Society of Fat Mermaids in general.
All right, that's awesome. Well, I really appreciate the gift of your time. You apparently have been saying yes to a lot of weirdos, including me, and I really appreciate that. And I have been having a lot of fun just digging into your community, the little group you've kind of, this ragtag group of really interesting people you've put together. And I would challenge anybody to get in there, be part of that group and not smile constantly. You guys just radiate joy, like unabashed joy. Like it reminds me of like that childhood joy where you are just so gleeful about a thing you truly enjoy. And I love to see it. It's like it's almost like a daily affirmation like to see those pictures pop up. So I love all this light that you are putting into the world. Your smile is so infectious, it's amazing. So I hope you keep doing the things you're doing. And I'll tell you what, I'm gonna click stop on all these buttons.